Alright, what's going on, guys? Apologies if I sound a little sick, it's because I am. But I wanted to get this out really quick because I want to talk about challenger decks, and I do believe the deck lists are coming out this month. It's currently February 3rd, and I believe these are coming out in February, or at least the deck lists. So I wanted to talk about them because I had a little bit of an issue with the article that Wizards of the Coast published about these things. So if you didn't see it, or if you haven't heard about these are supposed to be FNM playable competitive standard decks that you can buy out of a box. I believe they retail for $30 USD. The idea is you can go to your local gaming store, you can buy this out of the box, just pull it out, sleeve it up, and play an FNM and be competitive, potentially win. Which is good. I mean, that's kind of fantastic. It's great for new players. If someone hasn't played for, 5-10 years and they go into a local gaming store and say, hey, I want to get back into the game, how do I do that? And they can just point to this challenger deck and be like, go buy that, $30 buy that. You can play FNM tonight and you'll be competitive with it. So that's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with that. So my issue is that in the article, they made the very specific quote. They said they didn't pull any punches, and then immediately in the next sentence they said, these decks are going to contain 2 mythics. See, now the problem here is, why are you concerned about rarity distribution? Why does it matter what rarity the cards are, right? Because if this is just supposed to be an FNM playable deck, what does it matter if it has 2 mythics or 10 mythics? What does it matter if it has 2 rares or 40 rares? Why does that matter? Why does it matter what the rarity distribution is? And, obviously we do have to be concerned about the secondary market. And yes, I know some people are kind of iffy on the secondary market. They don't like it. They're greedy and evil. But remember, your local gaming store is part of the secondary market. Your local gaming store's single boxes are the secondary market. And if the secondary market goes down, then your local gaming store does lose business. Let's just say that your local gaming store, for example, has 20 Carnage Tyrants and 20 Chandra, Torch of Defiance. And then tomorrow, they make these challenger decks to make a Dinosaur one and a Ramonop Red one. And those prices plummet. Then your local gaming store loses a lot of money because they invested in those cards. They bought them with the intention to resell them, or they opened them and now they're gone. So yeah, secondary market, that your local gaming store is part of that. So even though Wizards of the Coast says they don't care about the secondary market, I think we all know they do. And in my opinion, they definitely should. They should try to, make sure that the secondary market, particularly when it concerns local gaming stores, I think they should be concerned with that and ensure that it's healthy. But here's the thing, the secondary market, whether it's a local gaming store or an investor, all they care about is the value of the card, right? Like, it would hurt your local gaming store more if Fatal Push was printed at uncommon in a challenger deck than, say, some bulk mythic that's worth 25 cents or 50 cents or whatever, right? Like, that's what they care about. They care about the value of the card, and they don't want it to plummet, because if the value of the card plummets, then they lose money. So why does the color of the logo on the card matter? It doesn't matter to an investor. All they care about is the value. They don't care if it's rare or mythic. They just care that it's worth something or it's not worth anything. So let's say, for example, let's say Teamer Energy was still legal. This is going to be kind of out there, just hang on. If Teamer Energy was still legal, if Bristling Hydra was a mythic rare, and if it was still worth 25 cents like it is now, I'm pretty sure it's worth 25 cents. So let's say Bristling Hydra, mythic rare, 25 cents. Now, if Wizards of the Coast did a Teamer Energy challenger deck, they wouldn't be able to put in 4 copies of Bristling Hydra because they can only put 2 mythics in. But it would be a bulk mythic in that scenario. It would be a 25 cent bulk mythic. So what does it matter if it has a red symbol? What does it matter if the Kaladesh symbol is red instead of yellow or silver? Like, why does that matter? It shouldn't matter. The rarity distribution shouldn't matter. I mean, look at my decks. I build budget decks. You could take my decks on this channel. You could box them up, sell them for $30. And that wouldn't hurt anything really, right? It's all bulk. It's all cheap stuff. If you took, I don't know, ores or Combustible Colossus. Actually, Combustible Colossus might be worth more than $30 in paper. But if you took Ores, if you took Restore Balance that I played, and you put that in a box for $30, wouldn't hurt the secondary market that much. And I can't even tell you what the rarity distribution of those decks were. I don't know how many mythics they played. I don't know how many rares they played, because that wasn't important to me. The only thing that mattered to me was, how much does this deck cost? Is it under 10 tickets on Magic Online? That's all that mattered. So from Wizards of the Coast perspective, I get that they don't want to print tier 1 card for card and, print the hell out of it and sell it to local gaming stores in these boxes, because that would be very painful for local gaming stores. It also has the potential, you could make the argument, that it would make Standard more narrow, because at least at FNMs, people are more adventurous in their deck building, and it would just become basically like competitive. It'd be very narrow. There'd be 3 or 4 decks and that'd be it. But I don't get why you can't take a tier 1 deck. I know Ramunap Red has been hit with bans, but let's just say you take Ramunap Red, you take Hazard out, you take Chandra out, and now you have the core, right? You have the core of a mono red aggro deck. You get to run that at an FNM and be somewhat competitive. You wouldn't have the punch, right? You wouldn't have that Hazard is so important. But, you would have the core of the deck. You could play it at an FNM. A new player could buy it and have a decent deck. Someone returning to the game could, kind of just get into the game with that again. And then, if they want to, if their FNM is more competitive, or if they want to play GPs, then they can invest in Hazards and Chandras. And, they can upgrade the deck themselves. The deck can come with a pamphlet that says, hey, here's your deck list. Here's some stuff you should be considering. Consider Hazard. Consider Chandra. Not only would that give you a pretty decent deck, it also wouldn't hurt the secondary market and would actually encourage people to potentially upgrade. So I don't get it. I don't get why the rarity distribution matters. The rarity distribution doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the secondary market value. That's the only thing that's important. And I think that in itself is the problem, right? Wizards of the Coast likes to say that they don't care about the secondary market, even though they do and very much should. But if they were to take tier 1 decks, strip out all of the valuable cards, and put the bulk in a box, even though that would be a good product, they wouldn't be able to do that without admitting that they were building the decks around the secondary market. And, people would call them out and saying, oh, they're greedy, they're putting out Teamer Energy, but they took out all the valuable stuff. They made a Ramunap Red Challenger deck, but oh look, of course they took out Hazard and Chandra. And, from a business perspective, I think that would be a good idea. But from a public relations perspective, people would complain. There would be a video on Desolator Magic about how they're greedy and evil. And, I guess, sure, whatever. But, that would be a good thing in my opinion. Unfortunately, I don't think they can physically do that without just getting a lot of public backlash, as well as having to admit that they are paying attention to the secondary market values. So that's kind of a bummer. I've been thinking about it. I haven't decided yet, but I've been thinking about, since I saw this announcement a couple months ago, whenever they make a challenger deck, I'll make a challenger deck myself. I'll just take the strategy, I'll pull out all the valuable stuff, and I will replace them with, budget alternatives. But anyway, I want these to be good. Let's be clear about that. I do want these to be good, but I just think that Wizards of the Coast isn't going to be able to make them good, just because there's just issues with it. For some reason, they're concerned about rarity distribution, which they should not. And I don't think they can just strip out the valuable stuff, because then people will complain. So, it's just, it's annoying. People complain. People always complain. Maybe it would be better for everyone if Wizards of the Coast just didn't give a shit if people whined, which, because they're going to do it all the time anyways, right? People complain. Everyone complains. That would be the issue. But I do think this could be really, really good if they just make a budgetized version of tier 1 decks, put them in a box, guide people towards the tier 1 version, and then, you're selling a competitive deck at an FNM level. Again, not something you would win a GP with if you're cutting Hazards and Chandras and stuff. But at an FNM, maybe it's competitive. So you're giving people a good product. You're not hurting the secondary market. And you're potentially pushing people into buying Hazards and Chandras that they normally wouldn't have which is good for local gaming stores, it's good for investors, it's good for the game. So I would think that would be the best way to go about it. Don't care about rarity distribution. Just put a good, cheap budget deck in a box. That's all. That's all you have to do. But I'm a little bit dubious. I don't blame Wizards of the Coast for incompetence. I just think it's more complicated than that. I think they have to care about the secondary market, even though they say they don't. But then they have to make it appear as if they don't care about it. And, then they gotta be concerned about investors. They gotta be concerned about local gaming stores. They have to be concerned if this is too close to tier 1 decks, is it going to be too narrow? Is everyone going to be playing the same 3 decks? Like, if they made 2 challenger decks, and those are the 2 best decks at an FNM, then just everybody plays the same 2 decks, and it gets boring. So, like, there's so much that goes into it, and it has to be so complicated. And I think that's why. So I'm not here to say that Wizards of the Coast is incompetent and they can't do anything correctly. I just think they're in a box, and I don't think that they will be able to kind of get out of that. But if they wanted to just say, screw it, we're just going to make a good deck and we don't care, just make a budget version of a tier 1 deck, and that'll be good enough, I think. Anyway, whatever. The point is, hopefully these are good. Hopefully they don't suck. And if they do suck, and only if they do suck, if these are good, then that's great. But if they do end up being really bad, then maybe we will do our own here on Affinity for MTG. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for bearing with my kind of scratchy voice, because, yeah. Actually, I already have games 4 and 5 recorded for, Rakdos Control. And, fortunately, I was just getting sick, but I think they're okay. But now I'm kind of stuck. I can't record. I'm forcing myself to record this. Hopefully, I'm better by next week, so, yeah, we'll see. For now, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one.